Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the best Zerg player from North America in the red. It's Scarlett. Up against the best player from the United States of America, the Battle Mage. It's Astrea. A best of 5 Protoss versus Zerg showdown. And a rematch of the North American Championships a few weeks ago when Astrea was able to sneak by a victory with one of the boldest cheeses, a proxy gate that walled off Scarlett's base and just barely snuck through 3-2. Now, if you enjoy some cheese, or maybe you're lactose intolerant, either way, it'd be awesome if you could like and subscribe. And Jimmy, what are we? What? 1,335 likes on this video, on this cast, on this series. I'll cast another one. I'll probably do it anyways. I don't know what else I would do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Protoss versus Zerg. Standard start. Golden. Yeah, I already begged for subscribes too. Yeah. A shade being thrown in all directions. Oracle on the way. And a standard start. That's how things started. I can't help but go back to that dramatic series. While in North America, we here might not play the very best, most polished StarCraft. It's those rough edges that really make things a lot more entertaining. And sometimes bloody. And sometimes both. Really. And kind of related. But first Zerglings come in, knock out the Adept and the Oracle. Well, tries to get some revenge for it. There will be no cancel on the third base. Astrea with a kind of a weird-looking patrol pathing there, and a Void Ray on the way behind. Whereas Scarlett just now adding in those Spore Crawlers, more Queens, and that was enough Lings to take out any Adepts that come across early, and may force the Oracle back. Well, actually the Void Ray here lights up the Oracle, but going to get the pylon at the third. I can struggle through that sentence. The Zerglings struggle, but a couple of them survive. And the pylon is what is that? I'm sorry. It's a carrier rush. All right. Astrea on the other end of the spectrum here from any sort of proxy gate cheese. The fleet beacon is lit, and the Protoss call for carriers. Well, I guess it could be a mother. It's not a mothership, though. I guess it could be Tempest. It's probably not Tempest either. This is another scenario where the Void Ray itself is a bit of a giveaway. Rarely do you make a Void Ray after the Oracle. Usually it's first to drive away any scouting ovies. But now that the Void Ray is out and has scoured the map, looking around for any sort of other overlords to gun down or to melt out of the sky, whatever they do. They shine their strobe lights or their flashlight on it until the Overlord implodes. I'm not sure the exact physics of the situation. And also, that's not important. What is important is 2 carriers are in production. Chrono Boost on the way. Scarlett is just now starting a lair. And that means the only anti-air for quite a while yet are going to be Spore Crawlers and Queens. Which, the carriers aren't particularly scary starting out, even 2 carriers fully loaded with interceptors. But at the same time, that number grows quickly. And if any of the Queens get picked off early, and I imagine Astrea is going to send these straight out, I can't see a situation in which you'd wait for your opponent to get access to more tech. The carriers are just oh my. Well, 2 carriers on the way across the map. Here we go. Hydra's Den is already on the way. I'm not sure if Scarlett spotted the carriers or anything else early on, but now, well, cancels the Hydra Den, starts 3 Queens, a dozen drones, because of course, and a Spire. So the Hydra Den was the original intent, but on seeing the carriers, realized that Hydras are not actually an anti-air unit. They're a lurker egg in disguise. Not even usually disguised, but Astrea fully loaded with interceptors, a few roaches scampering across the map. They don't even have speed. That is on the way. Cannons coming up at the third. Scarlett going to try to put some pressure on as the roaches not going to provide too much support against the carriers. And by that I mean they're only going to get in the way of the Queens. Astrea has to recall back with both carriers, which buys Scarlett a whole lot of time here. Which may be a bit of an overreaction, as now Scarlett has 91 drones. Wow. And the Spire's about to finish. The carriers, 4 in total, plus 1 air weapons is on the way. The air weapons upgrades for those interceptors, very important, especially against queens, but also against corruptors, of which a dozen are in production. Archon's on the way. Astrea, any sort of element of surprise has been squandered here, as Astrea just turtling up on 4 bases. 78 probes and counting. Neither player looking to cut workers anytime soon. Very labor-friendly here. Making sure the drones and probes are in high... Oracle, take it out. Spots the corruptors, which was its very last revelation. No storm on the way yet. Astrea going to be relying just on the Archons to start things out. And that's a lot of overlords with speed. It looks like Scarlett is going to be painting the map with creep, and the queens with their creep spread are not enough. All right, Susan, Lucille, Edna. Is Edna here? Edna's here too. Everyone, we're walking. All right, we've arrived. Wow, the map's really short. Okay, Susan, we're fighting now. I don't... And the Corruptor's caustic spray onto the Nexus. There's really not that much ground support here. Might lose a Corruptor or two, but the Nexus just melts, and Scarlett, the Queen Corruptor timing, just overwhelming. And speaking of the Overlords providing that creep, and the Queens can throw some creep spread down. I think Astrea reached way too far, way too fast with these carriers, and didn't get anything for it. Usually the carriers are the capstone, the finishing move, that really ties the whole composition together. They are not a unit for those who are struggling to hold on to a third base, as even the interceptors cost money. The Zealots working on the 4th base, well, 5th base of Scarlett, might actually take it out. The Corruptors find an angle where the Archons can't really hit them. And so far, Scarlett just wipes out 2 carriers from the sky. The Ravagers are trundling through. The Queens at the back. The Interceptor count. The Queens are just knocking the Interceptors out of the sky as the Corruptors target the carriers themselves. And, well, with the creep highway and the Zealots at the back, Astrea barely holding on. The Zealots getting a surprising amount of damage. Not only did they kill the hatchery, but they also got some of the drones. The Queens are running out of energy. The Corruptors have dissipated somewhat. Archons, always dangerous against every bit of Zerg. Bonus damage against biological, which includes the buildings. But they have to get close enough to demonstrate their overwhelming anger. And right now, Scarlett not making that easy. Another wave of corrosive about trying to target down one of the Immortals, wraps it around with the Zerglings and takes it out. There's just 1 carrier left. More in production. Astrea, another wave of Zealots, though, and Scarlett, the supply's looking a little... Wait, Scarlett has 3,800 minerals and 1,400 gas in the bank. What are we waiting on, actually? Where is all the supply going? Scarlett is down to 143, losing some more here. Infestation Pit is on the way. Scarlett invests in more roaches and 10 more Ravagers, but Astrea has managed to hold. Kind of a surprising turn of events. Storm is now on the way. Better late than never. It feels like we're doing the tech tree backwards here for Astrea. He's getting a mothership, he's got carriers, and now is filling in upgrades and Storm. And if Scarlett allows him to survive, which is a bit of an odd phrasing, but feels accurate, if Scarlett allows Astrea to survive to this composition, well, that's when things get dangerous. Everyone knows the old adage of what do you do when Protoss gets 12 carriers? And the very unhelpful response being, don't let them get 12 carriers. Well, 12 carriers on their own don't really match queens and corruptors. But once you get the archons and the storm involved, that's when it gets a lot more difficult. Corrosive Bile almost knocks out a carrier in a single volley. And the storms are coming online as well. There are a couple Templar. Caustic Spray. Spray and pray down the Nexus. Has to... Oh! No! The Corruptors got a little demotivated. I think they were on the wrong hotkey there. But the Zerglings will finish the job here. Meanwhile, Astrea going to be losing that base to the north. Archon's wandering a bit far forward. Roaches and Ravagers going to pick off one. And the Zerglings starting to take out some of the probes as they transfer. Scarlett's down to 68 drones. Lost some to the Zealots. Built a whole bunch of static defense as well. The Queens. Brenda, come back! Oh, Storms on the front line, but the Scorchard here at the front. Just a handful of spores, and there's not that many carriers. Corruptors swing in from the north. The Storms not helping at all. Well, against the Corruptors, they're devastating against the Ravagers. But the carriers, just one remains. Corrosive Bile knocks it down, and Astrea is down to 103 supply. What? A mothership? The mothership wandered off course and gets recalled back. I have no idea what we're going full NA here in game number 1. Astrea far off course with the mothership. The carriers not nearly enough underneath to keep them intact. The attempts at a 5th base shut down completely. And now Scarlett, it was a little dicey when she was first pushed back from killing the carriers, but I think even with some storms, it's not going to be enough. There's a Time Warp Storm combination trapped in. The Caustic Spray, though, there goes the Nexus. Gonna cost a Corruptor or two, but an price easily paid in this scenario. Astrea's probes trapped in a prison of his own design. And now the last wave of Corrosive Biles needed. We'll finish off the Nexus. The Corruptor count is still too damn high. And now we gotta start asking ourselves, Astrea, do you know where the G key is on your keyboard? The answer is yes. Scarlett takes game 1 in quite decisive fashion. As Astrea with a haphazard carrier rush. That wasn't even really a carrier rush. That was kind of just, he built carriers and set them on his front porch. And expected them to somehow intimidate Scarlett from doing any sort of attack. Clearly, I think the Roachling counter that Scarlett just kind of threw out there induced an overreaction with the recall. That window early on with the first 2 carriers closed very quickly. And that leaves us with 1-0 for the Canadian Zerg. Jimmy, please. Game 2, Alkione. I was a little concerned there for a moment that Astrea was going to be able to build the Death Ball. It was coming together. But Scarlett kept her cool, and she was getting a Greater Spire and Adrenal Glands at the end. She had plenty of money in the bank in order to either refill Roaches or Corruptors. So it wasn't, even if the supply was kind of dicey, wasn't really as close as it looked. Because losing that first base and those carriers really took a lot of momentum away from Astrea. I don't even know how I feel about the carrier rush in game 1. I kind of like the idea of doing crazy builds in game 1. Not even that crazy, but out there, uncommon, maybe even rare. Definitely not legendary. But rare builds in game 1. So that way, if it works, cool. If it doesn't work, that's something to be concerned about as the series goes on. You have to at least have in the back of your mind, well, it could be the carriers. And an overreaction to that could be just as bad as an underreaction. But there we go. Scarlett, a comfortable game 1. Going into the standard fare in game 2. The reason you don't really see any sort of split from this, especially from the Protoss, is the Oracle's simply too good at too many jobs. It's kind of like the queen of Protoss in many ways. At least in the sense that it serves several purposes simultaneously. The Oracle has better DPS than a Void Ray, is a lot more consistent at scouting. Stasis and Revelation are incredibly helpful utility in general. It's cheaper than a Void Ray, both in supply and overall cost. Anti-air capabilities are only important for knocking out overlords, and since it is an air unit, you can just give vision to a stalker or something if you care that much, which you'll see some players do. So generally, the Swiss Army knife Protoss, the Oracle, and usually Moracles are a staple of the early game. And they kind of limit the Zerg builds as well. You can't, if you're up against a Twilight or a Forge, you can attack on the ground. You have a chance to do so. But up against the Oracles, things are a lot more difficult because you're quite committed with every single attack, especially if it's Roaches and Ravagers and not just Zerglings. Death going to be taken out, but this time the Triumvirate, the 3 Oracle opener, working out well. Single Adept gets mauled to death on Warpin, but otherwise. Lair is on the way. Quite a quick one. Well, relatively quick. We're almost 5 minutes in. One Oracle split off. Another 2. Oh, drew the Queen out of position. The bait and switch, but there's plenty of Queens willing to strongly disagree with the presence of Oracles here. Now blinking +1 for Astrea. A more typical follow-up. The Blink Stalkers using the space controlled by the Oracles to put a little bit more pressure on, and can get very cost-effective if the creep spread is controlled, as there's no easy way until Roach Speed to really chase him down. You can't chase him down with the Zerglings because the Oracles are above. And Roaches, well, they don't trade particularly well either. It's a numbers game, though. Astrea at 62 probes, Scarlett at 64 drones. Neither player with too much army on the field here, but Scarlett spots the 4th base on the way, which means 1, Astrea not 100% focused on getting damage done, though finds an opportunity to pressure the 4th. And 2, well, the 4th base needs to be dealt with sooner rather than later, ideally. The Queens getting kind of jammed in. Might be able to pick off one. The base is at half HP. Could use a transfuse or 2. But here comes Astrea again. And Scarlett didn't leave her units in position. We'll see. Maybe tries to pick off the base itself, though. You don't want to lose 5-6 Stalkers to kill a next hatchery. As I have it on good authority that 6 Stalkers cost way more than a hatchery. Source, just trust me, bro. For now, Scarlett holding on, and a Ling drop is on the way. Stalkers kiting back. Enough Ravagers to be dangerous. There's enough Zerglings in front. Now the gold base is starting to mine. The Ling drop at the natural. Astrea, somewhat undone by this. The Warpins now have to be at the natural. Uses all of the Oracles, of which there are 4 now, and a German taxi build. We've arrived! And in first class service, thank you. Queens again, making their way to the front lines, and the Stalkers are being driven back. Mass Ravager with Queens to backstop. Astrea's attempt to use the Oracles not going to pay off with the Queens here to dispute it. And 19 probes dead. Though Scarlett doesn't have a huge economy. Even more Dropper Lords coming through. And there goes the 4th. Any attempt at having a superior economy here is now shut down by Scarlett and her well-timed aggression. The Queens, again, the backbone of the push. And the Zerglings kind of awkwardly get loaded up. Ravagers take up too much space in the drop. Another Dropper Lord. Got a whole, like, mass transit system going on here. But Operation Overlord will continue. The Beachhead. Nope. The Zealots are there. Not gonna bother with that. Astrea kites back and snipes off the 4th. But they'll expect some of us in the wreckage, Stalkers. 3 of them will be taken out. The Blink Stalkers are trying to chase down the Ling Drops. We got Ravagers at the front. The Queens are still here. More Corrosive Biles. Knocks out an Oracle with it. But here comes Scarlett again. A couple Stasis Wards over to the right flank. That's not a super pylon. And the Warpins are too slow. Scarlett doesn't actually have that much economy here. The Queens are very important. If they get taken down, then Oracles and the impending Void Ray are going to be quite helpful. Astrea's doing a good job of working with the limited units he has left over here. That Stasis has not been spotted. A lot of Zerglings get caught, creating something of a force field. The Queens are on the front line. And Stalker's starting to kite back. Shield Battery overcharge used until the Shield Battery gets taken out by Corrosive Bow. And Astrea is pulling together quite a defense. The Stalkers, more than enough in a critical mass here. Without Zerglings in order to absorb the damage and draw the Stalker fire, well, the Stalkers themselves on the high ground are enough to deal with the Ravager lane. So Astrea actually takes the supply lead as a single queen. I've seen things. What did you see? What everybody else saw. We were all there. Oh, okay. Baneling Nest on the way. Hive Tech. And Astrea. The crisis management, and crisis management indeed. The accurate term. Impeccable. Or at least enough to keep the economy intact and have a strong arm. Oh. Right up until the Zerglings get into the natural. This time they didn't even need a Dropper Lord. Stalkers blink back, but a bunch of Stalkers on the creep. Astrea pulls back. Wave of Corrosive Bow, but forces out a full blink. And an Oracle looking the wrong way. And now looking nowhere at all. 10, 11 probes. The Zerglings. Yeah, the Stalkers eventually had to blink behind the mineral line, and the probes themselves were pulled. The blink, but waltzes into the Corrosive Bile. And suddenly again, the supply swings towards Scarlett. 173 to 123. It's a roller coaster, a seesaw, but right now Scarlett still in a leading position. Oh my. And Astrea running out of, well, really just comeback mechanics. The Blink Stalkers were able to hold and keep Scarlett at bay. But again, oh my god, there's no roach speed. And Scarlett realizing that as she scampers up. But Ravagers are unaffected by roach speed, as they have shed their bonds as roaches and become much, much larger, boiling cauldrons of disgusting bile. Another wave of Corrosive Bile. Scarlett with that rapid fire, just shotgunning it out. Fires at point-blank range. It actually takes out the Void Ray. Fires at her own Ravagers, which made it hard to tell exactly where the Corrosive Bile was. And the Queen who survived is back in the fray. A single force field is not going to be enough to stop this magnitude of Zerg. And the Ravagers continue to siege the Corrosive Bile to knock out the shield battery, taking a surprisingly long time here. And it looks like Astrea again is going to hold. Oh god, blood scattered throughout the field. The creep is at the doorstep. Astrea knows he's on borrowed time. Adrenal glands are on the way. Road speed is finishing up finally. And Astrea may hold, but there's a wide gap between not losing and winning. And I think we're seeing it at this moment. The Zerglings, I have Adrenal. They can just rip through. There's no charge. Not that it'd be particularly helpful against that many Lings. The Lings are just breaking through. Corrosive Bile, Stalker's trying to micro back. But the numbers, well, they warped in a few more. Astrea being overrun. Scarlett just looking for the opportunity to close this out. 11 more Ravagers on the way. 21 have died. Looking for revenge. You know, there's still... Legacy of the Void has been out for 9 years, but I bet there are still people out there who are wondering, wait, aren't they called Revengers? And they're not. But I agree, that would be a way cooler name. So, the Revengers are marching again. 35 Banelings with speed and +2. Wound up. Astrea sees it with the Observer. Archons. No, Storm is not done. Storm is not done. With Storm, maybe. 8. And that stasis may have bought the time. Literally 1 second. The Stalkers blink back the Storms. But there's not enough. The Banelings are rolling in. The Templar evaporate. And Scarlett goes to match point. Just like that. Wow. A surprisingly decisive victory. Well, I shouldn't be surprised. These two go back and forth, and so far Scarlett, by far, getting the better of Astrea. Both of the games so far, there were moments where Astrea might be able to swing it back, but Scarlett had just gotten too much of a lead that no amount of fancy micro was going to make up for the lacking macro. All right, Astrea. Are going into site Delta. Scarlett in the bottom right in the red. Astrea in the top left, the blue. Another... Well, that was a pretty standard fare right there. The Ravager Ling timing is about typical response to the sort of quick fourth base and Oracle defense. Bringing the Queens along however you see fit, but Scarlett throwing in a little bit of spice. The Ling drops, forcing Warpins out of position, baiting out Moracles, and then the Queens, of course. The Queens. Really tying it all together. Stargate on the way. Astrea sticking with his air-based guns, or lasers, or whatever they have. Maybe guns would be more helpful. Terrans agree. Adept trading out with the probe. Creep on the way. Not going to be taken out. Shade heads towards the main. Gonna take a look, ideally at the gas, and would hopefully get the drone count, but is forced to cancel or risk the Adept itself. Astrea with the pylon in the wall, which is a bit of a controversial statement, because the pylon in the wall is significantly more vulnerable, but it allows you to wall off with just a pylon, a saber, and a gate, as opposed to requiring 2 gates. So, Heroes also been doing this as well. Most players, historically, have found it to be too vulnerable to, like, Ravager all-ins, to Banelings. It's a little bit better on a map that has a ramp leading up to it, where you can kind of create a choke point, but at the same time, we'll see if it ends up backfiring. With the series on the line, the Oracle just lights up and casually murders a couple Zerglings, which feels a little unprovoked there, as only ends up getting 2 and wastes a lot of energy for it. It's pretty mean. Twilight and Forge. The Twi Forge. No, we're vetoing that one. Void Ray is out. And this is a little bit of the mind games now coming together. Ideally for Astrea, he'd have a bit less of a uncomfortable position being down 2-0. But this Void Ray now, Scarlett has to be guessing. Is it going to be the carriers again? Is it something else? The Void Ray is almost always a tool of deception. Here to drive away and kill any overlords and zone out. And hide whatever tech you're following up with. And in this case, it's going to be charge and +1. So a similar path to the Blinkstalkers, but a distinctly different intent. This is a build that doesn't really lend itself to a later game style. Astrea very likely. He's not hitting at any gates yet, but 4 gates in total. But Astrea very likely looking to get damage done, as opposed to just kind of keeping control of the game, like the Blinkstalkers are more intent on. Zerglings take out a probe. The Queens send a cease and desist to the Void Ray. Not even gonna bother lighting up the 4th base. Oracle really has it out for the Lings. But Astrea hid the Zealots in his main. He's driven away the Zerglings. And now it's... oh no. Here they come! Is there a Baneling nest? There's a Spinecrawler on the way. 3 hatches in production right now. Scarlett was preparing to deal with the Blinkstalkers, but now slaps down a Bane nest, some Spinecrawlers. But it's going to be too little, and it possibly is too late. And the Zealots just go for the Evo Chamber at the front. Easily cleave through. And using the wall off against Scarlett here. The Queens... the Queens are not particularly great against the charge lots, and a lot of the Zerglings filter through. The Queens are called to the front line. The transfuses are good. But that's so many Zealots with +1, which easily cut through this many Zerglings. Banelings are kind of required, but they're not even available. Already Scarlett taking damage. Behind it, Astrea has 66 drones. Brenda! No! The Queens are not enough. Hydra's on the way. No Banelings in production. Trying to tank damage. Even an Adept has been in here. Just joining up. And finally, the Zerglings are able to clean things up. 79 Zerglings for 18 Zealots. But I think the damage was already done. The Monarchy was disassembled. As 4 Queens down, only 2 remain, which is not even enough to inject all the hatcheries here, or even close to it. Scarlett survives with enough drones and tech to potentially pull together a counterattack. But Astrea has anticipated that. Double Robo at the natural. Pumping out Immortals. And the Oracle comes back in with no Queens to really contest it. Finds 6 kills. Or at least contributes to a lot of them. Here come the Zerglings, the Hydras. Astrea chose his build well. And found a decisive timing in Scarlett. Just a little bit. She was expecting the blink. Once again, hedging bets with the Hydras. And this, for those wondering, is why you don't usually rush into Hydras without knowing for sure what you're dealing with. They just take too long to really affect... even if it was Blinkstalkers, they take too long to really affect the fight early on. And the charge launch with +1 hits so hard and so fast. That was an awkward charge there. Scarlett back up to 78 drones, and she's building 9 more because of course she is. Meanwhile, Astrea is building double Robo Immortal. It already has Psystorm done for the Templar, which is an anti-lurker army composition if I've ever seen one. There's still at least 1 Oracle on the field. And there can be more. That Stargate is still idle in the main. You can always find an opportunity with lurkers, but the more immortals on the field, the harder it gets to find that window. And Astrea is walling off the 4th, creating just a choke point that he can use to funnel lurkers and zerglings. And Scarlett building 8 lurkers, but there's already 8 immortals on the field. Zealots towards the north side. Banelings. Scarlett doesn't want to waste too many, but has to deal with an incredibly fierce army. There's really not that many units here, but double Storm Templar. They're closing in on 2 Psy Storms, it looks like. Indeed. Oh my god, he thought his own Zealot was a changeling because there's only one. And he attacked it and then realized, well, the Storms are zoning out the lurkers. They don't have range. It's only halfway done. The hive was a distant dream. And without range, there's really no way to engage these immortals at all. Scarlett loses the base. Astrea now. A fleet beacon behind. Now that's more like the carrier timing we were looking for. The lurker count is quite high, but lurkers on their own are not going to be enough. The Templar can start softening them up with Storm. Oh no, another queen gets caught and killed. Mothership is on the way. Now that's a change. Lurker speed in production. Or lurker burrow speed, right? Immortals and Templar still zoning. Keeping tabs on the lurkers. Astrea just biding his time. It's on Scarlett to find a way to beat this army. Not so much on Astrea to try to end the game right now. He's got a better position. He's got a better economy. And yes, Scarlett has a few more drones, but Astrea is easily able to expand. Already has a 5th on the way. Scarlett, on the other hand, is going to struggle to hold on to her bases until, well, the lurker upgrades are done. There's nothing else really happening anytime soon. There's a Nidus into the main. Scarlett gambling on a counterattack and maybe able to catch the Immortals and Templar on the field. But another army to the south. Banelings are rolling in. Find a few probes. Nidus in the main. Nothing inside, but forces a warping. The Immortals easily bash through a hatchery. The main brunt of the army heads north. Immortals? Well, this army has no Templar with it, so there might be a chance. A lot of probes dying. 16 probes. Another lurker gets obliterated by the Immortals, but there's no detection to deal with this. I'd say a net victory for Scarlett. Just because she's able to break out of that kind of semi-contain. But, well, all the lurkers come through the Nidus, right into the storm. Category 5 drop down and just evaporating, annihilating the lurkers. Almost all of them melted in the initial volleys of storm. A few more on the back line, far enough out of range to weather the brunt of it, but oh, so many lurkers dead. Tectonic destabilization. Oh, what? A mothership goes down, as is appropriate. That mothership survived almost 20 seconds, an impressive accomplishment. I do appreciate the mothership gliding in just to die. More Archons on the way. Scarlett sieging up the base, but her own 3rd under attack as well. And there's just nothing here for Scarlett to defend. Astrea has played a beautiful game from start to finish. Using that Void Ray to keep Scarlett guessing, and then taking advantage of the lack of commitment. Still a Zealot in the main, just cutting through drones. Only takes 2 attacks with +3. So effective. More lurkers attempted, but the wall off here actually may work against Astrea. I'm not sure what he was going for with that one. But the Immortals are still doing damage. Will be cleaned up. The Templar finds the storm. Means the Immortals still going to find some more damage. But the carriers have arrived. There's still Zealots in the main. The War Prism at the back. The Lurker Den will be taken out. And Scarlett running out of options. The Lurkers work their way through the gateway wall. They warp into the south. I don't think, isn't it? Oh yeah, and then the Oracles realize they have an attack. A bit late on it, but there's no anti-air here. The Lurkers get cleaned up. Scarlett with no care of his upgrades. Astrea has everything. Scarlett left with nothing. And now Astrea putting himself on the board in game 3. GG. Well played. Astrea with a just beautiful control of the game from start to finish there. And I think using that Void Ray, the Void Ray in game 1 before the carrier rush, keeping those options open. And now you don't know which card he's going to play. So going into Ghost River, Scarlett still 2-1. Though a decisive victory there for Astrea will bring things closer. Jimmy. Like and subscribe so I can find real help. Scarlett was able to get the natural, very important on this map, as that base can be denied rather easily by the first probe and force a very awkward situation where Zerg... Oh, it's a roach all in. Yeah, Zerg struggles to take their third. But Scarlett, mixing it up, wants to take back the initiative, and this is a tough map to play out if your third base is not taken comfortably. Just in general, there's not that many bases to work with. It's very clear where to attack as Protoss. You can't easily... you can't take an alternative 4th or 5th base like you would be able to on your more standard fare. So, I'm not surprised. I was kind of wondering if we'd see any of this from Scarlett. But she's gambling on a roach timing. Unfortunately, though, Astrea pulls the Robo card. And what a time to do so. It looks like Astrea's heading towards a Immortal Sentry timing even. Maybe something along those lines. But there's no third base. I think Astrea's realizing. With a Sentry on the way, this is... not quite worst case scenario for Scarlett. It's pretty bad though. The only upside here is it's a Warp Prism and not a Blind Immortal in production. That Warp is gonna go for like a Sentry force field. It doesn't matter now because the roaches have arrived. And the force field just in time. Corrosive Bile knocks it down. Another force field. Just papers, please. Queen is on the way. You guys go ahead. I'll be there eventually. Meanwhile, the roaches and the lings, there's just not much here to defend. Astrea, that, thankfully for Scarlett, that Immortal is not done. The shield battery, does he even bother with an overcharge? No. Immortal comes down. The last line of defense. It may very literally be the last unit. The Warp Prism now very useful to juggle the Immortal, but 11 probes dead. Scarlett, though, only 18 drones in total. Zerglings coming up, trying to target some of these Ravagers down. Another pylon being targeted. The Queen now taking the brunt of it. Oh, not going to be able to hold any of these units down. Still one gateway powered. Corrosive Bile should knock out the pylon does. And that means just a Robo with Immortals in production. Scarlett breaking through. A second Immortal could be juggled out. There's still enough units. The Queen is slain. And Scarlett actually backs off outside the wall. The gateway is repowered. in order to warp in another unit on the high ground, maybe? Actually, Astrea's kind of supply blocked. Losing pylons. Well, left, right, and mostly center. The Cyber Core wasn't killed. There's a Zergling in the main. There's nothing to see. No, the Cyber Core. One corrosive bile, just even a few nibbles from a Zergling. Killing the Cyber Core would be so helpful. No shield batteries, no set. Well, you reset. It's just Immortals and Zealots. That's the only option. Still pretty good against Ravager Ling, but gets through. The Sentry has been built, though. I don't know, a force field blocks out the Ravagers. One of them, wait, they can squeeze through. And a recall, but down goes the Immortal. Recalls back, realizing the defenses are required. Scarlett was able to slip by, but 26 probes. And Warpian Zealots is still going to be mostly okay against this. An Observer was built, which is very optimistic from Astrea, who isn't really respecting how incredibly all-in Scarlett is. Oh my. It comes down to the Immortal juggling. Well, Astrea got to do his best Cirque du Soleil impression here. Juggling the Immortals in and out of that prism. As Scarlett still has enough units to easily overrun everything but the Immortals themselves. If the Warp Prism dies, Scarlett wins the series. Assuming it dies, obviously, before all the Ravagers are sniped off. Is there enough for a force field? It appears not! Well, a bit late. Creates something of a choke point, but actually, this works in Scarlett's favor. There's now 3 Immortals. Probes are pulled off the line. Immortals still working. 3 kills, 8 kills, 15 kills on the one most badly bruised. But another Ravager's on the way, taking down more pylons. The secondary Cyber Core could be taken down as well, forcing the juggle back. We've got shield batteries on the high ground. May just have to be canceled. Shield battery overcharge. Gets what he can from it. There are 4 Immortals now. And suddenly, the bulwark of Protoss. The Scarlet... 3 Ravagers. The Zerglings can absorb a surprising amount of Immortal hits. As they aren't quite... Another Queen! 2! Susan, come back down here! We can't transfuse! But something to put pressure onto the Prism. Corrosive Biles easily dodge, but the Knitting Needles from the Queens. Yeah, Susan, you're in front, though. You stay in front. That's fine. That's good. What? Fred? Five Immortals. It's getting desperate from Scarlett. 5 Immortals are... Oh no, the Queen. That's a lot. No! Down she goes. Oh no. Drones are in production. Scarlett is... She knows. It's a desperate prayer. But if she can... Astrea... Now, he handled the defense just fine. This is not it. Scarlett knows how bad this is, but she's got to fight it out. There's a chance that the War Prism goes down, the Immortals get caught. There's a dream, and now she's expanding to the bottom right corner like this is Brood War. But Astrea is not going to mess up this War Prism micro. This is one of those skills ingrained in high-level Protoss. The juggling with the War Prism drop. And this is ideal circumstances to show it off. How many gateways back at home? Just 1. A forge on the way. He yanks back the Immortals. There is and a Twilight as well. Astrea is actually going so far up the tech tree. I think overestimating Scarlett's position. I guess Dark Templar are still a deadly threat. Oh my god. There's 7 immortals. Oh. The Roach Warren itself. Oh my. This is, quite painful. Like watching someone get pelted with rotten tomatoes. It's... Each of these immortal shots is not deadly, but they're adding up. Kills a couple drones. Now this is, there's another Roach Warren on the way, and a Baneling Nest as well. Scarlett does have that hidden base. So if somehow she survives... Wow, Astrea just going High Templar. Archons, Immortal Archon. A reduction of Protoss. The best parts of the unit composition. The strongest units. Up against a smattering of Zerg. There's charge and +1 on the way. The War Prism dropped completely uncontested. Scarlett invested everything, including multiple queens, waltzing across the field in the attack. And it didn't pay off. Not well enough. Oh my god. 9 immortals. And Astrea is certainly putting their names to the test. Has he lost a single one? Yes, he has, which kind of ruins the illusion a bit, but... Scarlett... No, it's drones! No! Oh, that is the boat. Well... well, that's a bit of a giveaway. Where were those drones going? The Immortals didn't actually have a barrier up. Take out a Ravager. So Scarlett has survived long enough that the hidden base, well, not so hidden anymore. Yeah, Astrea hasn't seen it, but that was an incredibly obvious drone transfer. Yeah, we'll be spotting it now. There's Immortals and Archons. Astrea just now taking a third. The main base is starting to mine out, though not particularly quickly, because there weren't that many probes for quite a while. Scarlett has done a great job of taping things together with Banelings and Bubblegum, but it's still... Well, are there enough Archons? There's just 2, going on 3. 11 Immortals, though 2 of them are currently obliterating a hatchery. So, but with the Warp Prism back at home, we should see a recall here momentarily, but the Banelings just come wandering in. The Nexus isn't done, and that shield battery is depowered. This is about the best, perfect case scenario, as there's no shield battery overcharge. There's a recall, but Astrea's actually losing the vast majority of these units, finally juggling back, pinned up against the mineral line. And Scarlett gets the best possible fight she could have ever dreamed of. And now has 3 bases still behind. Unfortunately, unable to finish off the Immortals. Astrea recalled in time. But loses 7 Immortals, well, 6 more. 3 Archons, more sentries. Astrea. He's currently, I think, navigating the narrow path to defeat in the wide open field of victory, as he had every advantage, and still does, just not as comfortably, as the Immortals will target down more Ravagers. The Zerglings are in the main. The wall was never rebuilt, and the Zerglings trickle in, and probes starting to die. Scarlett is turning this game back around. 16 probes. Actual, non-superficial, but real economic, and still more! 24 probes. Astrea, what have you done? I don't... The Zerglings get in. And now the probe count is critically low. Scarlett actually has the superior economy. And Banelings in the main, though wandering in from either side. More Zerglings in the natural. A Zealot is warped in far too late. The banelings don't quite get to the probes, but I can't believe this. Astrea with Immortal Archon, but looking remarkably impotent. Right up until Scarlett gets caught between a rock and a hard place. That War Prism still able to juggle back. But 10 more probes are dead. Scarlett has rebuilt the third. There's still no lair. 15 minutes. No lair. No upgrades of any kind. Just Zergling speed. Astrea trying to stabilize, rebuilding probes, has lost 59 probes. Scarlett's lost 300 Zerglings. The Immortal Archon is still absolutely deadly. +2 Archons will tear through everything here. If Scarlett cannot isolate them on their own, 2 Archons, maybe not enough. 3 or 4 Archons is a game-ending number with completely unupgraded Zerg units. I can't believe this game's still going. Astrea going full NA. Scarlett has survived. This game now could be dragged kicking and absolutely screaming. Well, metaphorically for the Protoss because they don't have mouths, but to a full-on macro game, despite the best efforts of both players. As Astrea now adding on Storm, the Banelings are waddling in, as of course Scarlett doesn't even have a lair, so can't bother with Bane speed. A Concave coming together, another group of Roachling. What's in there? 4 charge lots. But the Roaches are in the main. Something they were unable to accomplish 15 minutes ago. Well, like 14 or 13, but still. The Ravager Corrosive Bile may be the only way to really break through the critical mass of Immortal Archon. There aren't that many Ravagers left. The Archons come back to the main, working on the pylons here, but the Zerglings just evaporate with a strong glance from the Archons. Storm is done. Scarlett still does not have a lair. Still sitting on 42 drones, and that's going to have to be the answer to absolutely everything, including the universe of things that Astrea can throw at her. Now Storm is done. On top of the number of Archons. On top of the Immortals. Of which there are still 8. And I think that one Immortal, 32 kills, another one 15, that have survived this whole time. These rocks are going to be taken down. Still no lair from Scarlett. The Warp Prism gets away in time. Astrea working on +3. The army to the south. Here comes the counterattack. A single Templar warped in. The Archons. Scarlett has to fight somewhere. It's only going to get worse dealing with this army. A shield battery overcharge to the high ground. Storms evaporating the Zerglings to the south. The Ravagers left on their own. Scarlett taking another fight. Gets a kill on an Immortal. But almost everything else. That Templar needs a bit more energy for Storm. Pulling back. 2. What? Oh my god. Okay. Corrosive Bile knocks out a few more. Recall onto the natural. Astrea. Again, finding a creative way to lose some more Immortals. There's been more Corrosive Bile than a particularly rowdy frat party, but it's not going to be enough. Finally, the upgrades and the unit composition show their strength, though Astrea's managed to circumvent. And Scarlett has found the opportunities. She's made the game. She's thrown it so far sideways that Astrea has been tilted the entire time. But this army is just so much better. 3,100, 2,200 is the cost of Astrea's army. The same army supply as the 2,700, 500 from Scarlett, who still, 20 minutes in the game, does not have a lair. This has to be a record. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if I've seen a game since Wings of Liberty go 20 minutes without a lair. Usually, at least it's attempted. Even if it doesn't end up getting used. But Scarlett taps out at the 20-minute mark, and things are tied up. The longest game of the series so far. The lowest tech. Actually, Jimmy, can we see the stats? 600 Zerglings. Wow. Well, Scarlett's gonna have to go back to the spawning pool, or maybe not. Maybe leave the spawning pool alone. Generations of Zerglings lived and died on Ghost River. But now, we have to go to game number 5. Okay, Scarlett. All tied up. Oceanborn will be the final map. Astrea in the top left with a Nexus first into 2-gate. Scarlett with a more typical hatch first. And Astrea going the other end of the spectrum here that he did. So, in the last big face-off between these two, in Game 5, Astrea did a proxy 3-gate cheese. This time, he goes Nexus first. The full charcuterie board of Protoss cheeses, economic or otherwise. I want to... I don't know. We need somebody who's good at the stats. I don't know if I've ever seen 20 minutes on hatch tech. Usually the game is decided well before that. And it felt like Scarlett should have lost well before that. The Immortals in the Prism, Astrea had all the tools. If he had just gone DTs, he just wins the game. But Astrea was trying to cover all his bases so well, he ended up being spread too thin. So Scarlett, I think it bodes well that she almost turned it around, but of course, the series itself is looking like it's almost turning around towards Astrea. He's got 2 in a row after Scarlett's 2. So now it's just down to 1. Math expert. Stargate. Oracle. Stressful. I gotta talk about the Nexus first. The Nexus first is quite a rare build because if you're up against a pool first, you could just lose the game. Like, it is possible. A 12 pool or even something a little later could hit before you really have any units, let alone a Stargate for Oracles. So, Astrea gambled just a little bit that Scarlett would not be doing some sort of full first again. Honestly, I think it was a safe bet, and he gets away with it. No, don't take it out on the hatchery. Just because the Oracle gets away, it always does. 2 kills in the orange. The classic exchange. And now the Shady Bunch build. Enough Adepts to be threatening with the Oracles overhead before there can be anything but Lings with speed and a handful of Queens. Designed to keep pressure on and punish a particularly greedy Zerg, but at the very least, kind of control the drone count. A relatively new iteration on the Protoss versus Zerg meta, but still quite an effective one in many cases. And Queens, yeah, finds a nice place to get jammed into, all cozy behind the mineral line. Adepts are able to shade away. Forge And a Robo for Astrea. A lair on the way. A Robo Bay? Astrea bringing essentially 5 different builds to the table here. This is something completely new as well. The Oracle into the Shades. And now, is that for a Colossus? I think so. Colossus to clear the lings from the chaff. Or the lings the chaff. Doesn't really matter. I didn't... Oracles get poked. I'm very interested to see. There's extended thermal lens. And a second Robo. So it is going to be Colossi out of Astrea. Which, now a Hydraless Den from Scarlett. Going to match up kind of oddly here. As Roach Hydra is good, but the Colossi, you kind of need the Vipers eventually to deal with them. And the more important part here is they're going to be completely unexpected. The Immortals, Astrea has, over the course of this series, shown a lot of different things. And I think Scarlett is kind of getting stuck playing the last game for several games in a row now, where she's busy countering what Astrea did last time and not really figuring out what he's doing this time in time. And yeah, 2 Colossi on the way. She's going mass Hydras. That is not the answer to the mass Colossus build. There is a Zergling at the 4, so some alarm bells should start going off soon. But are they going to be too little and too late? Astrea, 7, going on 8 gates. I think intent on a timing. The Colossi, holding in the main. Immortals moving out. Right now, Astrea's doing whatever he can to convince Scarlett that Hydras are the right answer. When your opponent, your enemy, is making a mistake, don't interrupt them. And right now, Astrea is very aware that Hydras are the majority unit in the army for Scarlett. And these Colossi will be coming out in quite a timely manner to deal with them. Scarlett, a Roach Hydra. It's an old build, but it checks out. There's the Warp Prism, indicating Astrea now is ready to go for the attack. Oh, down goes the Oracles. Both of them. So small win there. Scarlett gets a couple Ravagers, but the Colossi are revealed. And Scarlett going to try to split and take them head on. But there's extended thermal lance already done. Astrea gives up on the 4th base. Infestation Pit immediately. She needs to get to Hive Tech, but Astrea can't be allowed to come across the map. The Natural, under fire, breaks through the gateways, splits off a few Roaches and Lings. Disruptor, almost done, ready to fire off a shot, but doesn't do so in the main. And Scarlett, oh, a single pylon powering so much of this.
Who does that?
And finds an opportunity to slow Astrea down, despite having such an awkward unit composition. But the Hydras are being roasted on either side. Extended thermal lances, keeping them at bay. Astrea jams himself into the corner, but there's no way for Scarlett to really punish that right now. Scarlett making the best of an awkward situation. And makes her way up towards Hive Tech. Still a long way off, and Astrea has rebuilt. There's Ruptors on the field now. Or at least in production. It looks like that one Disruptor died. +2 attack will now complete. Repowered. Ready to go. Hydras, Roaches, and Ravagers. Oh my. Oh, more Roaches knocked away. The Stalkers pick off more. Blink. Very done. And the Disruptors represent an even more imminent danger. Blunks on some Roaches, hunts them down. Astrea getting closer and closer. Will he line up the timing here? Doesn't matter. The Concave looking pretty good. Disruptor shot, though. Easily micros back. Another Ruptor looking for the Hydras. Curves in. And Astrea still chunking through. I've nearly completed 17 more roaches on the way. War Prism at the back of the natural, but the queens, get off my queen! Huge pick off there on the Prism. The queens were ready, the overlords were in position, and the Vipers are in production. Scarlett has bought enough time to at least get the Vipers started, but she needs just a little bit more to potentially hold this attack. Astrea has a lot of supply. The disruptors are incredibly dangerous here. Loses the hatchery. Thinking about a recall potentially. Disruptors at point blank. Knocks out some of the queens. The Vipers are here, but they don't have the energy. Blunks forward. Astrea smells blood in the copious amounts of water. And, oh no, Scarlett losing momentum. Not so charged lots. About to be charged lots to the north side. But now the tech coming through, picks off an immortal. But the hatchery zones out with the disruptors. And another hatch is being hit as well. Another disruptor. Oh no! That may be the killing blow. That disruptor hits home, center mass. The zealots will take out the hatchery. And Scarlett. The Hydra timing would have been incredible had Astrea not already been queuing up Colossi. But Astrea just rotating his unit compositions and strategies here, and Scarlett left with almost nothing left economic. Oh, what? Scarlett is not mining. She is one base mining. Not even. Between the first two bases, it's a total of one base. Whereas Astrea takes out a huge chunk of the army, takes out 3 hatcheries, keeps most of his important units alive, and backs off. The decision-making is top-notch. He knows he has the advantage. And Scarlett, it would be a heartbreaker to go up 2-0. But there's a... I'm not seeing much of a path out. The stasis actually saves some units, but Scarlett at +2 against 3-2 with +3 armor and +1 shields on the way for Astrea. A decisive advantage. Even if we weren't factoring in the Ruptors and the Templar. Scarlett still has the drones. Lurkers are on the way. They do have range. There are Vipers. There are the tools. There were the tools. Oh no. It's a disaster. Astrea snipes off the Vipers. And now there's nothing to meet this army directly. The disruptor shots are flung home. The Hydras are melted. And Astrea claims 3 in a row. Oh, a heartbreaker for Scarlett. And so much was so close. But Astrea playing an incredible series as well. I gotta say, that was a masterclass of Protoss. Both in the execution of the builds, besides game 1. That was a weird one. I don't know what was going on there. But and the strategy for playing a full best of 5. The Battle Mage wins through. But still, one of the most entertaining, especially Protoss versus Zerg series. Yeah, it went a little NA. But as it should. Hopefully it made your day a little bit better. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And if you got the means and motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free. For now. Hope I made your day a little bit better. I'll see you next time. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill.